Good afternoon. This is Spirit Journey. Today is July 1st, 2019, Monday at 3:32 p.m. What you see on the screen right now is a copy of the Fair Use Index. I will be presenting some videos, and some of them may be copyrighted, but I will be utilizing some of these videos that may be copyrighted and my ability to use them. So I'll be using them for educational purposes, and this information here that you see on the screen is what I'm using it under. Yes, so good afternoon. I will be presenting a video. I will be showing several videos that I found on the internet. Early this morning, I forget what actually cued my memory to it, but it was something that I was watching, and then I remember that last month, in June, early June of last month, I did a video entitled something about the foreign language syndrome, and I found several videos on the internet. And again, what foreign language syndrome is, it's something happens in the brain, and it seems like each of the time that this phenomenon happens, there's some type of head injury, and the person wakes up. They could be talking in a foreign language or a foreign accent. Okay, so I then was going through YouTube, and then I found this video today on this young black woman, American woman, and something happened to her. At first, I have to be honest, initially I thought some things were humorous about it because it reminded me of an individual that I met in the 1980s, and she would put on a fake accent, and it kind of like consumed her. And then she thought, now I knew this girl, I know her parents, I've been in her home, we did sleepovers at her home, she's been in my home. And so when she wanted me to like go along with her charade and wanted me to believe in her lie, that's where the separation occurred. And so when I saw the video of this young black woman this morning, it reminded me of her. And then I started to feel a little serious about the video, because I started to realize there might be something really deep behind what's going on with this person. So I want to show you a few videos, and so let me show you here on the screen. Can I just, yes, I'm navigating different windows here. But the said video, I think I want to present that one last, but I want to use as a explanation, other videos to describe what could be happening to this woman. Okay, just take a sec. Okay, I'm going to put this to the beginning of the video. Okay, I'm going to present this video here.
Medical mystery out of Palm Springs. Navy veteran wakes up one morning speaking only Swedish, no memory of his past. Doctors have been trying to figure out exactly what's behind the transformation, and ABC's Rob Nelson has all the details.
Vet någonting om...
This is 61-year-old Johan Ek from Sweden. At least he thinks he is. His name is actually Michael Boatwright, an American Navy vet. In February, Boatwright woke up in this California emergency room in a Nordic state of mind, only speaking Swedish, unable to recognize his own face or even his son. Visibly emotional, he spoke to the desert sun through a translator.
That's the name I knew that I had. You are it.
Police say Boatwright was found unconscious in this Palm Springs Motel 6, along with 4 forms of identification and a cell phone.
The cell phone contained several phone numbers, all of which were phone numbers from the country of China.
The records show Boatwright may be a graphic designer who taught English in Asia and apparently lived in Sweden for part of his life. After several weeks of tests, doctors diagnosed Boatwright with the neurological phenomenon transient global amnesia. Experts who have not treated Boatwright say his condition may be more psychiatric than neurological.
Okay, what I just wanted to put on pause a little bit. What got me here was that, let me just back it up a little bit. Okay, as you see here, he is a Navy vet, and so am I, okay? So I just want to try to put the pieces together. Let me try to fast forward a little bit.
Sometimes very dramatic symptoms is actually psychological. It's not the first time a person has woken up speaking in a foreign tongue. In 2010, 51-year-old Kay Russell went to bed with a bad migraine and woke up speaking with a French accent. Her diagnosis, foreign accent syndrome.
It goes way, way, way beyond my voice.
Social workers are working to get him Social Security and veterans benefits, and are looking for other living options in the meantime. For Good Morning America, Robert Nelson, ABC News, New York.
Okay, so what stood out there for me was that it's a Navy vet. I'm a Navy vet, okay? And I've experienced certain things in the military, and I think some things are by design. So, but we do learn that he did briefly live in Sweden, and he also lived in China, and he worked there. So you would think if he's just coming out from China, and if some type of accident occurred, if he's going to speak a foreign language, I would start to think that he, if any language, he would be speaking in some type of Chinese dialect, but that's not the case. Okay, let me show you something else. Okay, this video is from YouTube. Okay, the person that is going to speak, his name is Dr. Robert Duncan. And this is a technology called the Voice of God technology that he developed himself. Here I go.
So, people know my background from yesterday's speech, but my real specialty is artificial intelligence and robotics, and redefining what human beings will be in the future. And a lot of people find this scary. I don't want to be redefined. I don't like this idea, something that's beyond my control. The very sense of self is going to be altered. Well, you're actually under a lot of control systems, and you have been since birth. So I was talking a little bit about well, mind control in particular, and something that I worked on, I'm not proud of, but it's called the Voice of God weapon. So there are 4 different techniques and technologies that can pipe voices into an individual's head. And once you can do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War to tell the enemy at that time, lay down your guns, this is all up. And it worked pretty well, because hearing voices which have no direction or sound, you have to assume that it's some spiritual entity. So it works pretty well.
Okay. So what he's saying is that he developed this device and you're actually aiming at the person or people, or group that you want to experience this phenomenon, and you hear whatever was being played as if it's actually coming from inside your head. And that's what he's talking about. Okay. Yeah, so this Robert Duncan, that's what he devised, this device. It's portable even, and you can use it and affect people with it. Okay, I'm going to show you some other videos here. Okay. Let me just show you one more. There's two more videos actually. I'm just clicking and selecting the right one. Okay, this is on the Unibomber, who's called the Unibomber. Okay, he's an individual. He's from the States, and he incurred a serious problem. He was, he was a genius, a math genius. It's just an individual who knew how to use his mind, and then something happened. So this is another video from YouTube that I'm going to present on the Unabomber. And this Unabomber, he's the individual that was planting bombs in like universities, several places, and he killed and harmed people. And they eventually captured him. And upon finding out who the actual bomber was, he eluded the authorities for over 20 years. And he was found out about in the 1990s. So everyone was like really surprised to find out who it was. And it was discovered who he was, and his family actually turned him in. There was some information that was presented, his manifesto, and when it was read to the public, when they got the manifesto and they read it to the public, family members, people who knew him, recognized the type of lingo and stuff like that, and they went to the authorities, and it was that family member, and they apprehended him. Let me just show you some of this video now.
Normal as I am now, it was just hard on him because he was much younger than his classmates. Despite the adversity, he took up swimming, wrestling, played trombone, and picked up basketball. He also had a few friends. Kaczynski's sophomore year marked the beginning of, in his words, the worst experience of my life. Together with 21 undergraduate students, Kaczynski was a participant in an unethical study conducted by Henry A. Murray, the Harvard professor and psychologist best known for pioneering personality tests. Before Harvard, Murray had been a colonel in the US Army and an agent for the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, which later became known as the CIA. According to his colleagues at OSS, Murray was obsessed with mind control and used LSD, among other drugs, to determine how to brainwash subjects. There is no evidence to suggest Murray used LSD in his experiments with Kaczynski, though. The study was officially named Multiform Assessments of Personality Development Among Gifted College Men, and its purpose was to measure how the students reacted under stress. Subjects were told that they would be debating personal philosophies with other students and writing essays detailing their beliefs and their aspirations. The essays were then turned over to anonymous attorneys who conducted vehement, sweeping, and personally abusive interrogations. The participants wore electrodes to monitor their physiological responses, and these sessions were also filmed. Later, subjects' expressions of rage during the interrogations were repeatedly played back to them. Some sources have suggested that Murray's study was part of the federal government's research on mind control, known as Project MKUltra. Author Alton Chase questioned whether the purposely brutalizing psychological experiment contributed to the making of Kaczynski the Unabomber. However, by no means can Kaczynski's bombing campaign be laid at Harvard's door, though his staunch anti-technological views are recognized in part to Harvard's curriculum in the late 1950s. Kaczynski earned a Bachelor of Arts from Harvard in 1962, finishing with a 3.12 GPA. In his own words, Ted later recalls his experience overall at Harvard as a tremendous thing for me.
So what I want to say with him, again, I'm not showing all of the video. His video is over 19 minutes, but just what I wanted to show there was that he was just a regular student. I mean, he was a bright student, and he didn't show any acts of aggression growing up, and he's accepted to Harvard. That's a very, one of the top schools in the nation. And then he got into this program, this scientific study about the personality, and what you just heard. Now, so you have people who exploit other people. They exploit their innate abilities, and then they distort it and they pervert it. And it sounds like that's what happened to the Unabomber. Okay, so you have, in each of these things, it's a government agency or people who used to work for the government. So you had someone who was a Navy vet, then you had a student who's enrolled at Harvard, and the people who had worked for what became known as the CIA had intercepted this young student and did a number on him and messed up his mind, and later on in life he started destroying. So now I want to present to you the said video in question about the young black woman. Now this woman, well, the mother of the daughter, was a guest on the Dr. Phil show. So I'll be showing a short video. Okay. Okay. This is the mother that you see, and I'm going to play it.
With my daughter, what upsets me the most is I don't know her anymore.
Her behavior is off the chart.
Tia did get straight A's. She was a perfect child.
I went away to college. I got a degree in nuclear medicine. I went to physician assistant school and got a master's.
As soon as she graduated from college, things started to become very, very strange.
I learned a new term called musicianary, a medical missionary that sings. That's me.
Just after graduating, she eloped with her boyfriend, and I didn't even know that they were getting married.
My mother did not accept him because he wasn't a doctor. My mother was being extremely judgmental, and I had to cut her off.
Last time I saw my daughter was 5 years ago. I feel very hurt. In the past year or so, my daughter has completely gone off the deep end. Look at this picture. I hate this. I just couldn't believe the once shy little girl that I had, professional doctor, had ended up resorting to.
My sister's real name is actually Tia. Last year, she told us her name is now Rose. Rose Life Now is all about this fake personality that she created.
She dresses up in all of these crazy costumes. She claims that she's a famous singer. She can't sing.
The thing that confuses me the most is 4 months ago, my sister started speaking with a British accent.
And these people come up to me and they say, hey,
Sorry.
we're just looking for people to pray for, and we really love God, and God told us to find somebody named Rose.
She's doing all of this for attention. This is definitely not who I raised Tia to be. She is so much better than all of this.
Okay. So my concern here is that I believe that something was introduced to her. Things just don't change. Just like when I was in the military, things just don't change on its own. Something from outside is introduced. And my stay in the military, I met a young black woman. She was an officer of the Air Force. And in general, it's thought of that people who enter the Air Force are generally higher scholastic, higher abilities than the other military branches. Again, I don't know that definitively, but in general, that's what it's thought of as people who enter the Air Force, especially blacks who are accepted in the Air Force. Now, this woman, you can tell she's very intelligent, but then something happened to her. And I noticed that the people who were in, it seemed like a higher percentage of people who were in the mental ward in the military are people of color. And to be specific, which color is black people, young black people. And so here she's an officer. Now, if she is an officer, you have to go through much more training to be an officer in the military. More is required of you, more responsibilities. And so if there was a crack in her cup, so to speak, it would have been manifested. And I also think back on other things in the military, things that happened to me that I never experienced prior to the military. You know, before the military, I never had certain experiences, and then boom, I entered the military and everything seemed cool, and then certain things were manifesting to me that I've never experienced before. So then I'm looking at these videos, and the Navy vet who started to talk in a foreign language, Swedish, and he's not Swedish, he's an American, and he was living in China. What happened? And he's not functional. He doesn't know who he is. And then the Voice of God device that I showed you, and how these technologies are used to implant voices in your head to influence you, scare you, whatever. So this young girl, young black girl that I just showed you, here she shares with her mom that she started to hear voices. Again, voices just don't come out of nowhere. Voices come out of something. It would be interesting to find out what the voices said. Did it tell her that she should change her name? Did it tell her that she should leave her career as a physician assistant and live on the street? What happened? One thing they don't go in detail about is her boyfriend. And I think that's also why I'm doing this video, because it was like, I'm thinking back at this one particular video that I saw. I forget the name of the individual. If it comes to me, I'll say the name. But this individual, she was a white female, and she was taken and used in what they call a my lab, what they call a military labs in Long Island, New York, and they did MK Ultra on her. These trauma-based mind control things on her, and they used her to go to politics. Primarily, she was used as a sex slave. In short, have sex with these men in power, governments, you know, and get information from them. And because they have control of her mind, she's not able to remember the information. It's almost like she's a carrier of information, and she was used and passed on to different people. And she did write a book about her experiences. So it reminded me a little bit about that with this woman, she has what's called a handler. A handler is someone primarily is used to control the person, to be the mediator of the person that is giving that mediator the instructions to then pass on to the victim who's being mind controlled. And so I started thinking, her so-called boyfriend, okay, her boyfriend, what happened? Was the boyfriend or anyone else there, were they the ones being used to influence her. That she was a straight-laced girl, an honor student, and then something happens and she just is out of her mind. So I'm concerned about this, especially because you have people who are in the military, people who are being experimented on, young black women who are, accomplished in their field of study in school, and then just like the woman in the military, she was an intelligent woman, and then something happens, and she was getting, I think, processed out of the military. Why? Why is it that in some areas in life, why you have such a large percentage of blacks that are, in situations or in mental institutions that are on the street? Now, I have to be fair and say that not just black people, but it just stood out to me with this young woman because she was a black woman and because she was a college student, and then something happens. As you see that with the Unabomber, he was basically a normal kid, but he was extremely intelligent. He had a big ability to learn quickly. And then something happens to him, and what happened, he was intercepted by this person that recruited him to be a part of a study. And this was exploited. And this man, the Unabomber, was a person of Jewish ancestry. So whether you're Jewish, you're white, or you're black, or, it could happen to any race, any religious group, any nationality. What is the common factor is that someone from outside is taking advantage of the population group. And so I share this video to serve as a tool to inform others out there that to be mindful when you see someone who seemed normal, basic normal childhood and young adulthood, and then all of a sudden there's a personality change. Maybe there was a brain injury in some of the people that I learned about with the foreign language syndrome or the foreign accent syndrome. Usually it's something that some type of injury up here. So again, we don't know what could have happened to this young black woman that was a college student, but one thing, she's not her usual self. And again, she lost custody of her children. Again, you don't hear anything about the husband or who has custody. Is she part of an experiment? And one thing I would say to the mother of this young woman is to find out who this guy is. And again, I'm not accusing this guy, but to just think, to ask the right questions. Who had access to her? What are their occupations? Who do they work for? And start trying to dig for answers on what could be happening. Yeah, so that's why I share this video. So, you see something like this happening, find out, hey, were they part of a study? Did they take any substance or drugs? Sometimes people could place drugs in people's foods, and that was another thing. I met another black service person. He was also an officer I think he was in the reserves. And it was his last day of his reserve week. Like you have like 2 weeks out of the year, and then 1 weekend in every month, something like that. But he was an officer. He's a black fellow, and I think he was from the West Indies, St. Thomas. And that last day he was to work there before being sent home, someone slipped some type of like LSD type of thing in his food, and he goes berserk and he was put in the hospital. And so I knew of him through a friend of mine, and I spoke to him over the phone. But this trauma happened to him. So you have evil people, and again, a lot of common denominator are people who work for the ABC agencies or the defense agencies. And so start asking questions when you see changes, or if you start hearing so-called voices, if you've have introduced new people in your life and maybe they're controlling, start asking those questions, and so that you could eliminate what is or isn't causing these things. So that's all that I wish to that I'll be saying right now, but I hope this information is providing food for thought. It's definitely had me thinking, okay? Thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.